The United States hoping for a vote in the coming days on a proposed UN Security Council resolution that would say that Iran must stop attacks in the Strait of Hormuz and help remove the mines that it placed illegally in the strait, or they will face more sanctions. A similar resolution was vetoed by Russia and China last month. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says this shouldn't be difficult to pass.
I think it's a real test for the UN, right? As a function, as something that functions that can solve global problems. What is the purpose of the UN? The UN was supposed to be a place where you could peacefully resolve global conflict. Right now, you have a country who is unlawfully, criminally, and illegally taking possession of an international waterway and blowing up commercial vessels and putting mines in the water. All we're asking them to do is to condemn it, to call on Iran to stop blowing ships, to remove these mines, and to allow humanitarian relief to come through, because there's humanitarian aid that's trapped. That's it. This is a very modest request.
Okay, let's bring in Ambassador Matt Whitaker, permanent representative to NATO and former acting Attorney General. Matt, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You know, I mean, he put it very succinctly. This is an international waterway. You just simply are not allowed to put mines in it that could blow up ships that go through there. Why would this not be a no-brainer for the United Nations? And then after that, why would China and Russia not be on board?
Good to be with you. And it is a no-brainer. Obviously, the UN has a credibility problem. You know, many of our allies and, quite frankly, adversaries talk about a rule-based system that is convenient when they want it to be convenient. This would be a chance for the global community to speak with one voice, to say things like shooting at commercial vessels, laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz are illegal acts and are not tolerated. But, you know, if the Russians and the Chinese decide to veto this, I think it's going to be pretty clear whose side they're on. And that will be a signal to a lot of our allies as to, you know, as to them hurrying to help and support our efforts there. I know that the Charles de Gaulle, the aircraft carrier from the French, just went through the Suez Canal. That's a good signal. We have others that are moving ships in place. But at the same time, you know, President Trump, through his decisive action, has really changed the global situation for the better.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just look at how long these countries have dragged their feet on securing an international waterway that is more important to their commerce than it is to ours, certainly, is pretty stunning. And it raises a lot of questions about NATO, which, of course, you are extremely familiar with as our ambassador. This is the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, speaking to European leaders about the future of international order and saying that it will be built from Europe. Watch this.
It's my strong personal view that as the international order will be rebuilt, but it will be rebuilt out of Europe.
Do you agree?
No, that is a total pander, and it's not accurate. I mean, you need strength to lead the world, and how you have strength is with strong economies, strong militaries, and a strong culture. And quite frankly, right now in Europe, that doesn't exist. You know, the United States is obviously pushing our allies here in Europe that are in NATO to become more capable, to have ships and tanks and the types of things that are needed to secure peace and prosperity. And their economies are equally weak. And so, you know, it is not going to be led from Europe. It's going to be led by the United States of America with strong leaders like President Trump.
You know, it's pretty shocking when you think about, you know, the back and forth on Diego Garcia, which the British had control over, and that one of the very first things, and relinquished it just before the war. One of the very first shows of strength that Iran put out there was a missile that went further than anyone thought they had the capability of. And where did they send it? Diego Garcia. I mean, how much more of a wake-up call does NATO need to understand that they have ballistic missile capability that could hit Europe?
Well, I mean, they saw that in real time. Not only did you have the missile go to Diego Garcia, you had several missiles that headed towards Turkey, which is a NATO ally, that were intercepted by our great destroyers in the Mediterranean Sea. I had a chance to visit one while I was in Greece a month ago. But, you know, those are the capabilities that, you know, even as of today, I was talking to our allies that you need to invest at pace to build these capabilities, to be able to join us side by side and to make sure that we have the deterrence that has been eroded because of this illusory peace dividend that they took for the last 40 years.
Mark, before I let you go, I don't know if you had a chance to ask Germany what they think about the possibility that we might pull some of our troops out of there. We have an enormous financial and human commitment to protecting these countries in Europe, and that could change.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with the Germans. Obviously, President Trump is at all times seeing what's in the interest of the American people and seeing how we need to use our resources. It's not just a matter of protecting our allies or somehow investing American taxpayer dollars in Europe for their security. It is about, the United States being able to, one, do what we've done in Iran to change dramatically the state of play in the Gulf, and to also make sure that we protect our homeland, to protect our other interests around the globe.
Ambassador Matt Whitaker, always good to see you, Matt. Thank you very much for joining us today. Lots to talk to you about. Thank you, sir.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.